With rants and raves, you'll be okay. And today is your lucky day. It is rants and raves with Gary K.
Hey everyone, this is Gary K, and we just returned from ISE. And one of the exciting new companies that joined the AV industry at ISE was a company called PlexusAV, and I'm here with Stephen Kogels from Plexus. Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today, Gary.
Yeah, thank you for being on. You know, you're not actually new to the industry, and a lot of people don't know much about PlexusAV. And obviously, you used ISE to introduce the brand to the industry. But you're part of a company that's been around for 70 years. So talk about sort of a little bit about the history of Plexus and Syncor, the brand that's behind it.
Yeah, so Plexus is actually a brand new division of Syncor. Syncor's been around for 70 plus years in the broadcast market. Been doing some research on that. You go back to 1951. That was like when the first color broadcasts were going on in the US, right?
Yeah,
so it's a long time ago. And we've kind of weathered a lot of storms, and the company has changed and reformed over the years. And we're still around, so we must be doing something right. And you would think. And Plexus is the newly formed division. And I think you can easily say, well, a lot of broadcast companies are trying to go to the Pro AV market right now. But we decided to do it a little bit differently than some of these other companies and really focus our efforts. And that's PlexusAV. So it's like a startup with a 70-year-old history. It sounds a little weird, but that's what it is.
It really is. I mean, it does sound weird, but yeah, your website is PlexusAV.com. This is literally a brand new company to the industry. I'm gonna sharing the website to you right now so you can subscribe. I would encourage you to go to the website, click on that blue button right there to join the PlexusAV network. On the website, you have some education, but if you scroll down a little bit, you see right away what you're doing. And what you're doing is you're doing AV over IP. And let's talk about that for just a second. You know, obviously there's a lot of AV over IP out there. The big, you know, the big leader in the market is Crestron. And obviously, you know, you have Extron, obviously, in the AV over IP market. You have SDVOE, which has sort of created an ecosystem of about 30, 40, 50 companies that are building AV over IP. But what you chose to do is align yourself with what is going to become the first standard for AV over IP, which is based on a broadcast standard. And it's known as IPMX. So for those of you who are interested, while you're watching this, jump on over to your browser right now, keep listening, and jump over to IPMX.io. Stephen, talk about, as they're looking at their website browser right now, hopefully, and talk about IPMX and sort of where that comes from and why that is different. I think this is a big deal personally, because we don't have a standard in AV over IP right now. And what IPMX is doing is try to encourage the industry to go that direction. And they're pulling the broadcast industry, which is doing really high resolution. I mean, 8K broadcast right now in AV over IP, like the Super Bowl, which was just on the other night. You know, that was all an 8K potential, you know, 8K capable AV over IP system. That was all done through a network using SMPTE 2110, which is what IPMX is based on. Stephen, talk about IPMX.
Well, I think if you think about interoperability, I think the Super Bowl is a good example, right? Think about how many different people are actually watching that single at a given time, right? So it has to be interoperable. And I think in the broadcast industry, this has been a given. That's like part of our company DNA is interoperability. So that's one thing. So IPMX gives you interoperability. So that means is that you can literally take somebody else's gear and integrate that with our system, and it will work. But not just from the audio and video level. It will also work from the detection and the management and control part, right? This is a brand new concept for the Pro AV market, where we're kind of always thinking in the siloed approach from the various manufacturers with their own proprietary standards. But if you think about, like, if it's an open standard, it means not just from a company perspective, but also if you're a consultant or a designer and you're designing certain projects that might be 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, you need something future-proof. And you don't want to go and have like 50 different revisions of your technical diagram, right? IPMX will allow you to do that because it is more future proof, because you can buy it from PlexusAV, you can buy it from other companies. So I think it's, especially consultants and designers, we've had a lot of good and positive feedback at ISE.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple layers to this that you're talking about. First off, is that although you're the first company to just do IPMX AV over IP, I mean, there are other companies that are doing it. You have Matrox that's in the market already, and you have a half a dozen other broadcast-based companies that are saying they're going to get into it. You're the first that's only doing IPMX. So that's a big deal, first off. So you have that layer, but also the fact that your products are interoperable with anyone else that's using IPMX. That sort of gives a level of job security to the person who's speccing it, because they know they're going to be writing a system that is ultimately going to be not just platform based, but standards based. And I feel like that's going to be a big launching pad for AV over IP. Even if the big companies like Crestron, Extron, AMX, whoever, QSC don't go with IPMX, I feel like IPMX will be there as a standard because they're capable of doing IPMX. And I think ultimately, if the market moves towards a standard, they will adopt the standard at some level too. Don't you kind of see that happening?
Absolutely. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is that IPMX, and now we're just talking about IPMX, not so much about PlexusAV, but IPMX is not developed as hardware or software. It's developed as it can be both, right? So if you look at future proofness, right, it's never kind of stopping discussion between ASIC and FPGA and software. Like, it's not really a discussion, right? It's going to go a certain way depending on what the end customer wants. But with IPMX, you can go into any of these directions.
Right.
So also from that perspective, I think it's IPMX is very interesting. It's just much more future proof and usable than some of the other proprietary technologies.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is with IPMX, all the different ways of doing AV, whether it be audio or video across the network, are all capable of being driven through IPMX. So, for example, NDI, Dante, H.264, 265, all of these things are capable of being IPMX, which means that one day, Stephen, the vision I have is one day you'll be able to type in an IP address and the video will just appear. So that means you could put that video wherever you want it to go, anywhere in the world. And when you're inside of only an ecosystem, then you can't do that, because that would be one-off customized, right? You'd have to be inside of their ecosystem. So I feel like this is an interesting sort of I think you're riding an interesting part of the market, because you have the potential of sort of being the first company to sort of drive the industry towards that standard of IPMX. And let's talk about Plexus for a second. One thing, I had a chance to go by your booth at ISE, and I was surprised at how small your products are. Like a lot of the the AV over IP products are larger. Do you happen to have one that you could put up and show us what it looks like?
Yeah, actually, so I have one here, and keep in mind, this is just a prototype, right? We're still full on in development mode. But this is, you can kind of see how big it is, just to as a comparison.
So is that
this
3
is
across in a rack? Right? Yeah.
So this is the size.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're correct. You can put 3 across in a rack. We're actually anticipating that we can put 14 vertically in a 4RU rack mount. We're still working on that. Little disclaimer there, but yeah, 3 in a 1RU. And
the connectors on the front, I can see 2 USB-C. The 2 round ones are what?
The 2 round ones are IR. So you've got your 2 USB-Cs, right? Because right now, if you develop a product like USB-A or USB-C, USB-C is the most logical option. These are mostly for peripherals, and then in the back we actually have a USB-C that will also support video. Right. So you've got HDMI in and then HDMI out to loop through. Your USB-C, then there's two Phoenix connectors are plugged in here, but basically it's the serial and the audio I/O, SFP, and then 2 network ports. And the multiple network ports are for being able to put your specific audio on a specific port, those kind of things. But also PoE powered, and of course a separate power as well. But all in all, a small box, right? It's really a small compact box.
So when will we start seeing the finished product? I know I saw on the map that you're at Infocom, and you're going to be at Infocom. When will we see final product, and when can we expect to see, a full ecosystem from you?
We're shooting for September timeframe. So it's kind of give and take 8 weeks after Infocom, and we're expecting to be able to show the majority of the ecosystem at Infocom in a working demo. At IEC was mostly a whisper booth, as you saw.
Yeah.
So we're showing off the technology specifically to people that we invited and special guests. But Infocom will be full on demo, and then September, October timeframe is going to be when we're going to be shipping.
So you can see them at PlexusAV.com. We also shot a couple of videos. I did an actual interview with I happened to randomly run into him while I was doing a live broadcast for rAVe TV. Your president, Jeff, that's also on there. The audio is not the best because I was wearing a mic and he wasn't, but you can still watch the interview. And he's the president of Syncor, and talking about PlexusAV. He was there at the show. You can see all those videos we shot at ISE by going to ravepubs.com/ISE and just type in PlexusAV in the video search box. You'll find those. And of course, go to PlexusAV.com. If you're interested, I mean, if you're going, I mean, obviously everyone's eventually going to go over AV over IP. You might as well subscribe. Go to PlexusAV.com, subscribe to their newsletter. Stephen, thank you very much for joining me. And I look forward to seeing what you come out with at Infocom.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And thanks everyone for watching. All of our ISE coverage is at ravepubs.com/ISE.
With